the amendment of the Electricity Act. While interfacing with the committee, the accounting officer further explained that management is aware of the outstanding obligation. However, the delayed settlement was majorly due to financial constraints imposed to UETCL as a result of certain commitments from Government of Uganda. This has been brought to the attention of the Government of Uganda through several letters, the latest being a letter dated 13th May 2022, in which UETCL responded to a letter from Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development dated 14th February and provided clarification on the accumulated outstanding 5% rural electrification levy via letter dated 13th May 22. In the quoted letter, UETCL clarified that Uganda shillings 103 billion had been offset from the amount payable on account of the rural electrification levy, pending settlement of the following obligations by government. One, first, during the energy crisis of 2011, with concurrence of government, UETCL applied part of the collected 5% levy funds towards the settlement of power bills, so that once the government reimburses UETCL, the same would be remitted to REA, 33 billion. Uganda government has not availed the above fund to UETCL. 2. Umeme claims government entities owe them over 64.779 billion on account of non-payment of their bills. Due to this, Umeme Limited, in accordance with Section 53D of the Power Sale Agreement, PSA, withheld and paid itself 64.779 billion against UETCL invoice for delivered supplied energy. This was done after giving due notice to the government, Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. As an interim measure, UETCL offset this amount from the rural electrification levy collected through the tariff and payable to REA Ministry of Energy, and used the same to pay generators to avert possible power crisis. An amount of 6 billion was offset on account of the BEC's outstanding amount. This follows REA's request of UETCL to stay disconnection of power supply to BEC's and committing to pay all the outstanding monies that the cooperative owed UETCL. An amount of Uganda shillings 33 billion paid to power generators during the power crisis of 2011 and 15.6 billion pension arrears was paid to former UEB employees and their lawyers. UETCL will continue to engage government agencies to have all the withheld funds paid to enable UETCL meet this obligation. And finally, all above have been brought to the attention of the Government of Uganda through several correspondences. UETCL will continue to engage the government agencies to have all the withheld funds paid to enable the company meet its obligations. We observe that the failure to set outstanding obligations affects UETCL and the ministry in their obligation to implement rural electrification program. We recommend that the accounting officer continues engaging the relevant stakeholders to ensure settlement of long outstanding payables as prioritized. Recognition of revenue from power sales. Right Honorable Speaker, the Auditor General noted that UETCL previously recognized the revenue in full at the point of power sales, without taking into consideration the fact that revenue is recognized at the performance of obligation, as the performance of the obligation is fulfilled. The Auditor General further noted that there have been insufficient disclosures in relation to the deferred revenues. IFRS 15.11 requires that the company discloses sufficient information to enable the users understand the nature, amount, timing, and uncertainty of revenue arising from the contracts with the customers. However, the company did not disclose the following: revenue recognized in the year that was included in the deferred liability balance at the beginning of the year. 2. Performance obligations satisfied, partially satisfied, and unsatisfied as at the year end. Payments made during the year for which no performance obligation has been fulfilled, i.e. WIP, and the timing of the satisfaction of the performance obligation and the amount allocated to the performance obligations. The committee observes that insufficient disclosures affect the user's understanding of the financial statements. Following the Auditor General's recommendation, an adjustment for the 22 billion was made as well as a disclosure, and this is depicted at the face of the statement of financial position under the non-current liabilities. We recommend that the accounting officer should enhance the subsequent disclosures to include information as required by IFRS 15 and enable traceability of the future investment plans. As a standard practice, reconciliations and adjustments of the financial statements should be done before the audit exit meeting, or else they be subjected to fresh audit. Observations on compliance with relevant regulatory framework. Procurement, unimplemented procurement, Right Honourable Speaker, represented from page 9 to 10, and the committee observes that the failure to fully implement or plan the procurement delays services for which the procurement of works, services, or goods were intended. We recommend that the accounting officer should ensure planned procurements are executed in a timely manner and unimplemented procurements be rolled over to the following period. Is low bidder participation. In accordance with Section 46 of the PPDA, CAP 205, all public procurement should be conducted in a manner that maximizes competition and achieves value for money. The Auditor General analyzed the bidders' participation by comparing the number of invited bidders with the corresponding numbers of participants, and noted that there was a low bidder turn-up for up to 11 procurements worth 5.44 billion. Accounting Office explained that most of the services and supplies required by UETCL are highly specialized, rendering the supply market limited. However, the company will continue to make use of competitive methods in accordance with the PPDA threshold. Further, the low bidder participation can be attributed to unacknowledged bid invitations, unclear instructions to bidders, and impractical requirements which affects the bidder's ability to respond and comply. The committee observes that low bidder turn-up limits effective competition and defeats the motive of enhanced competition to achieve value for money. We recommend that the accounting officer should investigate and address the causes of low bidder turn-up so as to maximize competition in accordance with the basic principles of procurement. We noted delayed procurement of consultancy services and observed that inadequate funds affect timely execution of the planned activities as well as service delivery. It also depicts lack of adequate planning on the part of the agency or entity. Accounting officer recommendation should improve on planning and budgeting to ensure timely execution of the planned activities. Government should increase its funding to the agency to be able to execute its mandate. Completion of the pending 34.7 kilometer Toro Lira 132 kV transmission line. Audit established that the company awarded a contract on 13th December 2023 to MS Kalapataru Projects International Limited to complete the pending works of 34.7 kilometers 132 kV transmission line of Toro Lira at a contract price of $5,359,246 and Uganda shillings 8.22 billion under procurement reference number UETCL Works 2022-23/01061. On review of the procurement file, the Auditor General noted the following anomalies. Contrary to Regulation 37 of the PPDA Rules and Methods 2014, the statement of requirements and the bill of quantities for the procurement were inadequate. The bills eliminated items such as mobilization, demobilization, soil soil investigations due to changes in the corridor, site security, deployment, and reassembling of some towers. As a result of amending the bills of quantities, BOQs, the contract price was adjusted by USD 289,243.87 and Uganda shillings 0.71 billion. The procurement was initiated on 31st January 2023. However, the bid invitation was sent out on 24th May 2023, 4 months later, which indicates inefficiencies in the procurement processes. The accounting office explained that since the contract was for completion of the work that had been ongoing, the user department at the time of procurement initiation had not envisaged the need for these items in the BOQ, but was established during pre-award negotiations as justification for price increase by Kalpataru. Going forward, management will ensure that user departments conduct adequate technical needs assessment in order to prepare a sufficient statement of requirements to avoid such cost changes. We observe the user department did not do adequate needs assessment, and the entity did not add sufficient supervision of the project in the respective phases. Inadequate needs assessment and incomplete BOQs result into increased project cost. The delays in the procurement process affects contract implementation. Recommendation. The accounting officer should ensure that technical teams and user departments support procurement requirements with proper needs assessments and accurate BOQs. The accounting officer should ensure that all staff are adequately trained and skilled to be brought to the required standards of their respective departments. A value for money audit should be undertaken by Auditor General in respect of the entire project to ascertain whether the work done was commensurate with the funds expended. Report on performance evaluation. We do an assessment of the company's financial performance, the operating margin, Right Honorable Speaker, and observe at page 16 that a fall in the operating margin below the desired level of 15% signifies a decline in profitability. Indeed, the decline posted, for example, in profitability is in forex exchange is 10.8 billion, a sharp and radical departure from the previous year's exchange rate gain of 60.1 billion. The committee does not treat this as innocent. The committee recommends that the Auditor General should undertake a special audit in this aspect and report to Parliament within 6 months. Profit for the year part. Right Honorable Speaker, a consistent increase in part signifies financial health and sustainable operations, which indicates effective revenue generation, cost management, and operational efficiency. This enables the company to reinvest in infrastructure, technology, and innovation that can lead to improved efficiency, enhanced service reliability, as well as reduced operational costs over time. The company's PAT decreased by 13.36% from 94.9 billion in 2022-23 to 82.25 billion reported in 23-24, suggesting reduced profitability. The reduced profitability is majorly attributable to the portion of the energy sales revenue that have been deferred to exclude revenue for the future investments within the tariff whose performance obligation has not been achieved. The accounting office explained that the company continues to implement policies and actions that ensure sustainable and consistent profitable position of the company accordingly. We observe that reduced profitability points towards unsustainable operations of the company in the medium, long, and long term, unless UETCL adopts policies or actions that could reverse this trend. Accounting officer provided no detail on the measures put in place to improve the profitability position of the company. Recommendation that the accounting officer should implement policies that ensure sustainability and consistent profitability of the company. Return on investments. The Auditor General noted that although the company's return on investment increased from 1.70 in the previous year to 1.89% of the current year, which suggests a slight improvement, the return is still way below the desired 5%. This indicates a suboptimal utilization of the company's assets to generate income. The accounting office explained that the company continues to fast-track projects to completion with a view to generating revenue and increasing its return on assets. We observed that the inability of the company to generate revenue and therefore low return on assets is attributable to the fact that over 60% of the company's assets are still work in progress. We recommend that the accounting officer should fast-track the completion of the projects under the work in progress to enhance revenue collection or generation. Liquidity assets. Liquidity ratio measures a company's ability to meet short-term financial obligations using current assets. A quick ratio between 1 and 1.5 is generally considered healthy. The Auditor General noted that the company had a quick ratio of 2.17 for the year under review, which is well within the desirable range. The Auditor General further noted that the quick ratio increased by 0.15 from the last year's ratio of 2.02, which suggests improved liquidity. The healthy liquidity position is majorly attributable to the operational funds from energy sales of 508 billion. Government of Uganda's contribution to PAP implementation and project implementation of 236 billion. Accounting Office explained that the above funds are not excess in nature, however, tagged and committed to the several disbursement activities pending conclusion of the relevant processes under the way, like procurement, RAP processes, fixed funds on bank accounts for treasury management purposes. The committee observes and agrees with the Auditor General's observation that although the ratio suggests a low quick liquidity risk, excessive liquidity may indicate that the company is not optimally investing funds for grid service improvement. We recommend that the accounting officer should fast-track the implementation of the activities attributable to the committed funds, and that excess funds are invested in relevant infrastructure projects to improve grid services. The debt ratio analysis. Debt ratio assesses a proposition of a company's assets financed by debt and is a critical indicator of its financial stability. A debt ratio exceeding 50% is generally deemed undesirable. The Auditor General established that the company's debt ratio as at 30th June 2024 was 55%, which is higher than the desired 50%, indicating that the significant portion of the company's assets is financed by debt. The Auditor General noted that the undesirable ratio is attributed to the on-lent loans for the International Development Agency, IDA, Exim Bank of China, African Development Bank, ADB, and the Japanese International Cooperation Agency, JICA. The auditor further noted that although the company indicates that government has no intention to recover the loans in the foreseeable future, the ratio implies a high financial risk that may hinder the company's access to the future loans. Accounting Office explained that the company has engaged the government of Uganda on the matter of conversion of debt to grants and will continue to follow up on the same. The conversion will significantly improve the company's gearing ratio since the loans would no longer be a component of the company's long-term debt. We make our observations and recommendations on page 20, and then move to payment of dividends, where we make our observations and recommendations at page 21. The implementation of the entity's mandate and unachievable strategic targets, Right Honourable Speaker, from page 21 to page 22, we make our findings, observations and recommendations. And on the high rejection rate for the costs submitted to errors approval, our observations are found at page 24, and with recommendations at the same page. On the review of the implementation of approved budget, we make our observations at page 25 through to 26 with attendant recommendations. On underperformance of Government of Uganda disbursements, Right Honourable Speaker, we make observations at page 26 and recommendation at page 27. Operations and maintenance costs, we make our observations at page 28 and with attendant recommendations at the same page. Right Honourable Speaker, we make several observations from pages 29, from page 30 through to page 38. And by addressing the above stated challenges, the company could improve its financial and operational outlook to deliver the better services to its clients and stakeholders. With that, I beg to move that Parliament be pleased to adopt the recommendations. Right Honourable Speaker, the other report relates...
And Hansard captured the whole report?
Yes. Yes, the other observations and recommendations relate to the following entities: the Electoral Commission for the audit year ended December 2024, which I beg to lay on table.
Please do.
The other relates, Right Honourable Speaker, to... copy to the Speaker. Relates to the operations and the audit of financial statements of the Uganda Registration Services Bureau, which I beg to lay on table.
Please do.
The other, Right Honourable Speaker, relates to the Insurance Regulatory Authority for the audit year ended December 2024, which I beg to lay on table.
Please do.
The other one relates to the statements of Chirembe Mines Limited for the audit year ended December 2024. The other one, Right Honourable Speaker, relates to the statements of the New Vision Printing and Publishing Company Limited for the financial year ended 30th June 2024. I already laid this on table. Okay. In summary, Right Honourable Speaker, we have been able to provide the following: Uganda Revenue Authority Corporate Services, Uganda Revenue Authority Collection Accounts, Uganda Registration Services Bureau Operations, the New Vision Printing and Publishing Corporation, Kirembe Mines Limited, Electoral Commission, Uganda Electricity Transmission Company, the Insurance Regulatory Authority, and the Uganda National Airline Company. With that, Right Honourable Speaker and honourable members, we invite Parliament to find pleasure in adopting We thank you, Right Honourable Speaker and
Thank
honourable
you.
members for patience. And finally, permit me to thank the members of the committee and our staff assigned to us for a job I believe well done, for some sleepless nights. Yes, the last days have been tense with the tone going up at times. It was a work hazard. They should bear with me. I thank you, Right Honourable Speaker,
Thank
and
you.
I beg to submit.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for the exhaustive reports. Honourable members, you've heard the reports that the chairperson has read out. Any comment? In the absence of a comment, I put a question that the reports of the Public Accounts Committee, commissions, statutory authorities, and state enterprises on the annual reports of the Auditor General to Parliament for audit year ending 31st December 2024 with the entities, authorities that have been mentioned be adopted by this August House. Those in favor say and the contrary nay. Aye. The ayes have it. And as you've heard, the other authorities have not been, the reports are not ready. And as precedence has already been set, I now put a question that the House adopts the recommendations of the Auditor General on the entities that remain unconsidered by the Public Accounts Committee, COSASE, as contained in the annual report of the Auditor General to Parliament for audit year ending 31st December 2024. Those in favor say and the contrary nay. No. The ayes have it. Honourable members, we've considered all the reports and I have sent you more reports. I hope you find time in this critical time of campaign to consider them. I wish you could be considering whichever report that comes. You consider, you don't wait for all the reports. So those are the problems we have, especially at this time, but we want to thank you for these reports. Get time and read all these reports. And there are issues that border to criminality. I want to ask the clerk to extract them and have them forwarded, those reports to be forwarded, especially the one of the National Airline, forwarded to IGG for action. I want to thank all of you, members, who have endured to be in the House up to this time. And you know, God will always pay you back by coming back to the 12th Parliament. Yes. I now adjourn the House and dine.
Yes,